We all remember the dance. In a grand ballroom under a crystal chandelier, a beautiful young woman in a golden gown waltzes with a hulking horned beast. It's the moment a monster is tamed by love. But this iconic scene is a lie. A beautiful, comforting lie designed to conceal a deeply disturbing family secret, a truth that has been methodically scrubbed from the story for nearly 300 years. Forget the story about falling in love with a stranger. The original tale explores something far more unsettling, a carefully arranged union between two members of the very same family. What if the beast's monstrous form was never really a punishment for his arrogance? What if his curse was actually a desperate magical quarantine designed to hide a scandalous truth locked away in his very own bloodline? A truth that connects him directly and intimately to the young woman who arrives at his castle gates. Have you ever wondered why the curse was so extreme? Think back to the story you know. The enchanted rose with its slowly falling petals, ticking down like a fragile clock. We remember the charming servants, transformed into a talking candelabra and a fussy mantel clock. We remember a brave, book-loving girl who sees past a terrifying exterior to find a gentle heart. And a cursed prince whose salvation depends entirely on her love. It's a perfect and powerful moral lesson, one that has been taught for generations. True beauty, we are told, lies within. It's a tale as old as time. Here's where things get interesting. That story, the one we all hold so dear, is a whisper. It is a faded, simplified, and heavily sanitized echo of a much older, darker, and far more complex original. The first Beauty and the Beast might surprise you. Instead of a charming fairy tale for children, it was a sprawling, 362-page aristocratic novel, a labyrinth of courtly intrigue, warring fairy factions, decades-long backstories, and forgotten family histories. It's a story less about a curse and more about a conspiracy. And once you see the original design, you can never look at the ballroom scene the same way again. The key to this entire mystery, the evidence that unlocks the secret, is hidden in plain sight. It's found in the original 1740 novel, a book titled La Belle et la Bête. It was written by a brilliant, but now largely forgotten French novelist named Gabrielle Suzanne Barbeau de Villeneuve. Her version is the source code for every version that followed, and she buried the shocking truth deep within its final pages. Villeneuve's forgotten story reveals something truly startling. The beast's curse, his prison-like castle, and his desperate isolation were never just about his monstrous appearance. They were all pieces of a desperate plan, a magical cover-up connected to the secret identity of his fated bride. An identity that, for the safety of an entire kingdom, had to be hidden from a treacherous royal court. Once you start to look at the familiar story, not as a fairy tale, but as a crime scene, the clues are everywhere. And the first clue is the nature of the curse itself. Think about it. Why such complete and total isolation? An evil sorceress curses a prince to be a beast. Fine. But why magically erase him from the memory of the entire world? Why does no one remember the royal family even had a son? We should see this as something more than a punishment. In fact, it's a strategic, systematic quarantine. The beast's castle functions as much more than a prison. You could almost call it a magical safe house. It has been designed to keep the entire world out and to keep one very important secret in until precisely the right person arrives. A person who isn't just a random girl from a provincial town, but someone who holds the key. The extreme isolation is the first hint that the story is protecting a secret far more explosive than the curse itself. Now think about one of the most powerful images from the modern story, the slashed portrait. In a fit of rage and self-loathing, the beast has clawed the canvas, destroying the image of the handsome prince he once was. We read this as a simple act of despair, but in this investigation, it's a critical piece of evidence. His rage goes deeper than just hating his old face. This is a symbolic act of severing his connection to his own past, to his own family history. In the world of aristocratic society, a portrait is a public record of lineage. By defacing it, he is destroying the primary evidence of his bloodline. He is literally erasing the face that could connect him to his own relatives, making it impossible for anyone to see a family resemblance that would give the game away. It's a deliberate destruction of evidence. What do you think he was trying so desperately to hide? This brings us to the event that kicks off the entire story, the father's supposed crime. Beauty's father, a merchant, gets lost, stumbles upon a seemingly abandoned castle, and is offered shelter. As he leaves, he remembers his daughter's simple request and plucks a single rose from the garden. And for this, the beast sentences him to life imprisonment. The punishment is absurdly, almost laughably, disproportionate to the crime. Who would demand a life for a flower? Unless the rose represents something far greater. What if the real crime here was never about theft, but about trespass? In the language of heraldry and royal symbolism, the rose has always been a powerful emblem of a royal house, a symbol of a bloodline. By plucking that rose, the merchant does more than just steal a plant. He unwittingly stakes a claim to a lineage he has no right to, triggering a violent, fiercely protective response from the beast, who is the sole guardian of that secret line. So let's review the evidence. We have a magical quarantine designed for total isolation. We have the deliberate destruction of a family portrait, erasing a clear link to a bloodline. And we have an extreme, violent overreaction to the symbolic theft of a rose. All of these clues point away from a simple story about a curse and toward a complex, multi-layered cover-up. But these are just the shadows flickering on the cave wall. To find the source of the fire, to understand the real conspiracy, we have to leave the familiar tale behind entirely. We have to excavate the pages of Villeneuve's original 1740 novel. And it is there, in her forgotten words, that the full, shocking family tree is finally revealed. When you open Villeneuve's 1740 novel, you aren't in a simple fairy tale. You're in a sprawling, complex, high society romance novel written for adults. The part of the story that we recognize, the merchant's daughter in the beast's castle, is just the beginning. The book continues long after the curse is broken, and it's filled with intricate histories of both Beauty's family and the prince's. There's a massive backstory involving a great war between two rival fairy factions, a kingdom lost to civil war, and a series of long prophetic dreams that reveal hidden memories. This was far from a simple bedtime story. In reality, it was an epic. The key to unlocking the novel's central secret is a fascinating plot device: Beauty's dreams. Nearly every night in the castle, she enters a dream world where two figures appear. The first is a handsome, charming young man who pleads with her and professes his love. She falls for him without realizing he is the beast communicating with her psychically. The second figure is a powerful, good fairy who acts as her guide. This fairy slowly, carefully reveals pieces of a past that Beauty herself can't remember, telling her that she is not who she thinks she is. These dreams function as a kind of magical therapy, a portal to a forgotten identity. And this leads to the first bombshell from the novel. The good fairy reveals to Beauty that her entire life has been a carefully constructed fiction. She's never been a merchant's daughter at all. This was a lie, a cover story created to protect her. In reality, she is the secret, exiled daughter of the king of the Fortunate Isle, and her mother was the good fairy's own sister. She was placed with the merchant's family as an infant and had her memory magically suppressed. This was done to hide her from a murderous, evil fairy who had tried to kill her as a baby in order to marry her father, the king. It turns out Beauty comes from royalty. She is a lost princess. And now we come to the moment where all the clues click into place. After the curse is broken and the prince is human again, Beauty is confused. She loves the man from her dreams, but feels a duty to the beast she has come to care for. It is then that the good fairy arrives with the prince's mother, the queen, to finally explain the full conspiracy. The queen reveals the prince's family history, and the good fairy reveals Beauty's. And then they reveal the connection. The beast's mother, the queen, is the sister of the king of the Fortunate Isle, and the king of the Fortunate Isle is Beauty's real father. Let's be perfectly clear about what this means. The queen is Beauty's aunt. The prince, the man she is destined to marry, is her first cousin. Their entire meeting, the curse, the isolation, it was all orchestrated by the good fairy to reunite two branches of the same royal family, to bring together their power, and to defeat their shared enemy, the evil fairy who had tried to destroy them both. At this point, you might be thinking this is a shocking, scandalous twist. But here is the final crucial moment. For the book's original 18th century aristocratic audience, this reveal wouldn't have been seen as a scandal. For the intended audience, it was the entire point of the story. During this period, marriage between first cousins, known as consanguineous marriage, was extremely common among European royalty and nobility. In fact, it was standard practice. It was how dynasties consolidated wealth, secured titles, and protected their power from outsiders. For a real-world parallel, we need only look to the most famous case, the Habsburg dynasty, who ruled much of Europe for centuries. They were so committed to marrying within their family that generations of inbreeding resulted in severe genetic deformities, most famously the pronounced Habsburg jaw. So, are you ready for the final piece of the puzzle? In this historical context, the beast's physical curse can be read as a stunning metaphor for the very real genetic consequences of this aristocratic obsession with bloodline purity. And so, we arrive at the deepest truth. Villeneuve's novel was never meant as a cautionary tale about inner beauty for the common people. Instead, it was a fantasy written for and about the aristocracy. The cousin reveal was the ultimate fulfillment for its intended readers. It presented a story where a destined, strategic marriage between relatives becomes the heroic key to restoring a kingdom, defeating one's enemies, and securing the future of a dynasty. The romance was just the beautiful packaging for a much more practical story about the destiny of a bloodline. This idea of a secret contract, a binding family pact, runs deep in our oldest tales. But what if that contract was never really about marriage, but for a child? The real reason Rumpelstiltskin wanted the baby is tied to a terrifying firstborn curse. And that story is next.